Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well. You beautiful, beautiful people. What a week. We're getting slowly through the week, aren't we? We're getting slowly there. Well, I say slowly. It's actually gone fairly damn quick. Really quick. It's because Christmas is on the way. And I know some of you have pointed out and said, is that a Christmas tree? Is that a Christmas? Yes, it is. It is a Christmas tree. And why is it a Christmas tree? Because Christmas in this household is extremely, extremely important because we have children. And we want it to last long. Do you know what I mean? Not make it just about a day or a week. We want to spread it out and show some love and festivity. Anyway, I'm rambling. I know. I do it. I digress quite a lot. I digress, as it says here. Now, look. I did a video yesterday and it spoke about Samantha, Steve, and this situation. And I knew that video would split the room. I wasn't quite prepared for how much backlash there would be to Samantha, however. That came as quite a surprise. Am I truly shocked? And am I also shocked that certain people came out and said specific things about the situation? No, I'm not. But I just want to put this to bed. I just want to do one last video that talks on this topic, just to sort of clarify a few things. And I think to make what I'm going to say more valid, I have to explain more about my situation. I touched on it yesterday. For those of you who have been around a while, you know, I had a violent father myself and a mother who eventually went on to take her own life. Now, many people think that I'm hung up by that I have issues regarding what happened in the past. And what I will say is, to be fair, what has happened to me in the past has made me advocate firmly for those who do not get advocated for normally. There's stigma around certain things. And if people don't like that, if people think that's wrong, then those people can suck my balls. Because that's just who I am. I will continue to advocate for people who I feel should be advocated for. And those that don't like it, I don't care. I genuinely don't care for. I don't care what people think of me on this platform. I just do what I do. And those that agree will follow. Those that don't agree, some of them will follow because they're adult enough to disagree, but disagree without being a dickhead. And I love them people because it helps me to become broader-minded as well and not just in my little box that I know I can be sometimes. But anyway, again, I digress. So let's talk about my current situation. So we have 5 children. 3 of the children, the 3 that live here permanently, are my stepchildren. 2 girls and a boy. And then I have 2 biological daughters. But let's look at it like this. So my youngest was used as a weapon by my ex-partner when I had to get out of that relationship. My entire life had spiraled into a severely toxic mess, and it wasn't healthy. It wasn't healthy at all. So I had to come out of it. It was unsustainable, and I changed my work. I came away from retail management where I'd been for 13 years. I left it. I left everything because if I hadn't have done, I wouldn't have been sitting in front of you guys today. That's the reality of it. But my youngest daughter was used as a weapon to say that if I got in another relationship with anybody else, then I wouldn't be able to see her. And that was a threat that was indeed carried through. To the point where it was said that if I tried to approach my youngest daughter, then I would be reported for hitting my youngest child. Now, I've never, ever raised my hand to a child. And the downside is in the law in the UK is very, very different to some other places. I don't know, and I'm not going to pretend that I know what it's like in the US. I don't. But I do know what it's like in the UK, and it's damn horrendous. Fathers' rights in the UK, around that time, certainly, I don't know so much as we sit here, but they just didn't exist. They didn't exist. And to turn around and threaten with that, that's a very, very serious threat. And one that the repercussions could have lasted a lifetime. So they had to be taken seriously. And it's now only a few years down the road that things are now starting to be repaired, as my ex-partner finds herself happy in another relationship with another child, and because she's happy and because she's settled, it's okay for me to now have something to do with my youngest daughter. But I could still argue that the fault lays at my feet, because I should have had the balls back then to fight that issue, to do more about it, but I didn't, because that threat, although very serious, and I had to take it seriously, could I have done more to fight it? Could I have decided that my daughter was more important than the search for a relationship? Of course I could. And being a father, that's sometimes what you have to do, because you have to decide what you're willing to do and sacrifice for a child that had no choice in the matter of being born. You made that decision. So I can look back and understand that I failed, but I now have to repair. But the plot thickens here, you see, because I have an older child, which some of you will know as Sienna, if you've been around the channel for a while. And Sienna is an amazing girl, but she has a massive flaw, and that is who her mum is. And I mean that wholeheartedly. I had a child with her mum, and again, I made that mistake. I made that mistake because I was young. I was young, and, I was blinded by the fact that this attractive female who was a model and everything was, just blinded by it all. People had warned me, don't go down that road. She's a gold digger, yada, 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 all this. But I'm thinking to myself, well, I just must be a sexy man. I must be a sexy man. That's why she's with me. It's not for a money element or anything like that, because I'm gorgeous. I've learnt a lot since then and realised that it perhaps wasn't so much the fact that I was gorgeous, and perhaps the fact that she was a gold-digging fucker. But anyway, she then decided that she wanted to be a lesbian, which I have absolutely no problem with at all. Live and let live, and I truly believe that. Truly believe it. But she became an absolute anti-male, man-hating, monstrous machine. And she married her partner. I could go on and tell you some horrendous stories, but I'll just give you the bare bones of it. She moves. I paid for her to move into this nice place with Sienna, but in the middle of the night, a few weeks later, she upsticks, fucked off, and disappeared, and I couldn't find her. It took me years to track her down, because she'd left the country. She then comes back into the country, and I find her. And then what happens is my partner, who my youngest daughter is with, they get speaking to one another and decide that what they're going to do there is say that if I approach Sienna, then my ex with my other daughter will re-raise this, I've hit my other daughter. So they use that as a weapon, so I can't now approach either of them. And then I have to go through this situation again, where now what do? I speak to social services, I speak to numerous, authorities, people of authority, and find out there isn't basically anything that I can do. There's nothing that I can do. And in fact, a friend of mine who is a high-rated legal professional basically said, you need to be careful, because the system, although it's wrong, they will fuck you over. So you're caught between a rock and a hard place. So time progresses, time moves on. And like I say, there's reparations now happening with my youngest daughter, and I have to ignore everything that was done in the past because I want to have a relationship with my younger daughter. Now, the situation with Sienna is very, very different, because Sienna's older and she's had a lot more time with someone who is severely toxic. Now, Sienna approaches me not that long ago, about a year ago, And she basically says that she's fallen out of her mum, and all these things that, you know, she knows that I did for her and tried to hunt for her, and that I was paying for her, and I was sending money, doing this. She knows. And, you know, it was all her mum being so toxic. She'd said some really horrible things around the death of my mum. And she apologised for that. She was wholeheartedly apologising, said that this was just, you know, the influence of her mum. And she had asked if I would forgive her, and of course I said, you don't need to apologise. You don't need to apologise, because in my head I'm thinking, I know who your mum is, so I know the impact that does. But I was not expecting what happened next, because we obviously take Sienna in and we're dealing with this, but then we find out that there's so much more missing to this story. I learned that Sienna was placed into care without my knowledge, that she wasn't really looked after, and, you know, it's a heartbreaking story. But then things change. There's a turn somewhere, and then Sienna's mum comes back into the fray, and it turns out that Sienna's mum is moving to Dubai, and she's leaving Sienna in this country. And between them, they had concocted this plan to approach me and have me pay for my ex-partner's house so that Sienna could live in it in her absence while she went to Dubai for a few years. And when I turn around and say, well, no, Sienna can come and live with us, but I'm certainly not going to be paying for your house while you move to Dubai with your new partner and leave your 17-year-old daughter in the UK. That isn't happening. And lo and behold, I'm then every name under the sun, and I haven't heard from Sienna since. So it would appear that this was just a ploy to get me to pay for the situation. Anyway, what am I getting at? What's my point here? My point here is that we are parents, you know, we're mums and we're dads. And a child doesn't have a choice to come into the world. We make that choice for them. 100%, we make that choice for them. And I think that what happens is sometimes that we're too young to fully understand what that entails, how important that job is. We're young, aren't we? So we don't fully compute what it means to bring a complete life into the world, to make this person who you do not fully understand, that every single thing you do and you don't do, or that you subject them to, what you don't subject them to, will craft them into who they are. And what Steve Goncalves did, whether people want to admit it or not, is he created a life. He created a person. And the position that person was placed in, through actions, inactions, made that person who they are. I saw some horrendous comments being made. Like, why does Samantha want to go onto social media? She's just doing it for clicks and views. While simultaneously ignoring the fact that Steve Goncalves, for instance, has done nothing but get in front of cameras at every single opportunity that he's been given to do so. You don't see the other parents doing that. Even Ethan's parents, who have kind of come out nowhere near to the extent that Steve Goncalves is. And let's not forget that Steve Goncalves has, metaphorically speaking, adopted Madison Mogan as his own too. So he has doubled up on that I am suffering. And I get the guy is suffering. I get it. I know he's suffering. He's lost a child. And I've said that shouldn't be taken away from him. But what happens in these situations is when something happens, when a tragedy happens, this dome goes over people. This dome of protection, where all of a sudden they are no longer seen as normal people. They're seen as people who are held up on a pedestal that nobody can touch and understand that they do things that normal people do. We saw it in the Michael Vaughan case, where Michael Vaughan, who, God bless him, he is still missing, and who knows what happened to Michael Vaughan, and will we ever know? But what we do know is that Michael Vaughan shouldn't have been walking the streets as a 5-year-old boy at that time of night, especially after there had been numerous shots over the bow that he was a flight risk, so to speak. But obviously, to say that the parents should in some way be held accountable, that is frowned upon. That is disgusting to even try and say it. Disgusting. But the same people, if they lived on an estate and they saw a little 5-year-old boy walking around the streets at night, I bet they would be sitting there thinking, why is that kid walking about on his own at night? Where are the parents? What are the parents doing? But again, as soon as the bow breaks and the worst happens, there's no longer that mentality. It's all about, you now can't say anything bad. Can't say anything bad. And it's the same with Steve Goncalves. The fact that he has lost a child doesn't take away the fact that he made another one. And to say that Sam just wants attention, she's doing everything for attention, yes, that's the point. She is doing it for attention because she is someone who is not getting the attention that she wants. And some people may tell her to grow up, because I saw this, she needs to grow up, do it differently. She's the child. Steve Goncalves is the father. A father, by his own admission, has said, don't make me be the alpha. He wants to be the alpha male. Or maybe he doesn't want to be the alpha male, but he could be the alpha male if he's backed into a corner. I don't quite get that statement. But part of being an alpha male, a trait in being an alpha male, is to hold on, grab on, and solidify, concrete your relationships. Be a proper man. And a proper man loves his family and holds on to his family, all of them, everything. Takes responsibility for everything. And this ain't an attack on Steve, because I've done this. I've been in the position that Steve Goncalves could well be in. And I'm not saying he is, I'm just saying that's how it looks. It looks like Steve Goncalves had a child, not fully understanding what having a child would entail. He then gets into a relationship and has another family, and very quickly this other child becomes an inconvenience. And perhaps not an inconvenience to him initially, but certainly an inconvenience to perhaps his new partner. And again, I've seen it. I've seen it happen. And I'm not saying it's what it is, but I'm saying it's what it looks like. And it looks like it because we have Steve Goncalves and his camp, if you like, and this girl on the outside. And she is on the outside. And it isn't her responsibility to grow up. It isn't her responsibility to act in a manner that you people think that she should when she's lived growing up to the age that she's at with the absence of a father. We know, and society knows, that when people are born and they're raised without the influence of a father or without the influence of a mother, it will affect them unless somebody comes in and takes the place of that person. And some people do it fantastically. You have step parents who are amazing and much better than the biological parents. But children need the influence of both. Unless the person who's raising them alone is so amazing, and they are out there as well. Trust me, there are people out there who can do the best of both worlds. They can be mum and dad, and they can raise amazing children. They do it every day, and they do it without help. They do it without acknowledgement. They do it not thinking about themselves or anybody else. Their focus is to be mum and dad to that child, and they raise them amazingly. But that's a rarity. That's a rarity. The reality is that children are affected when they're raised, they're brought up, they grow up in the absence of a father or mother figure. Now, there might be only slight nuances to their life, and there might only be little things that are affected, but they're affected. And what I see when I look at Sam, I look at a girl who was craving attention, yes, an attention that she should fucking well have. She didn't pick to be here. She didn't choose to be here. she was brought into the world by someone who appears to not be doing everything in his power to make her know that she is loved, absolutely, undeniably, 100%, as much as Kaylee was, Maddie was, who's not even his biological child, by the way, but it's his job to do that. Whether you like it or not, that's his job, because when you put your pecker into that nice warm place, unprotected, you're accepting the responsibility of what that could bring. And that's a fact. A very, very harsh reality. I'll catch you all in the next one.